This is Rhea.
This is King, and welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with IamBeautiful365.com.
Today, we're going to talk about wellness. What is wellness? There are tons of different types of wellness, right? There's emotional, physical, spiritual, social,
community, things like that.
Environmental,
intellectual, financial.
Right, financial, go blah, 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 blah. So, we're going to talk about 4, right? Those 4 are
mental/emotional wellness,
physical wellness,
spiritual wellness,
and social/environmental wellness.
Right. But before we get into all of that, we really want to address why Black wellness matters, especially right now. So, right now, what are some of the things that we're dealing with?
Okay. Well, from a men's perspective, I want to say, as men, we have a huge responsibility in the society to fend for, and protect and provide for our people, families included, right? Families first, and then everyone else. If we are not well, we can't perform that job to the best of our ability.
Right.
All right. So, on the top of that list would be physical. So we need to work out. We need to be stronger. We need to be quicker. We need to be well-winded so that we can, keep up with whatever comes our way by way of protecting those who may be less physically strong and have less stamina. We have to make up for what they can't do for themselves.
Mm-hmm. I think on the flip of it, for women, it's important for us to focus on our physical wellness as well. So like what I was kind of getting at is like we are in the middle of this pandemic. Mm-hmm. There are civil uprisings essentially going on, all of this kind of stuff. Some people are losing their jobs, some people are bringing in less money. And as women, Black women, we tend to be the caregivers. We tend to be the ones carrying our communities on our back. So with all of this added everything of 2020, it's really important that we focus on our physical wellness, because all of that, taking on that stress without addressing it can really cause us detriment. Mm-hmm. I think I've shared this with you before. Mm-hmm. When you're really stressed, your body produces cortisol, mm-hmm. right? And that cortisol is what comes from this fight or flight syndrome, right? And mm-hmm. it's perfect in, that instant where you got to lift the car up off a baby or something like that, right? But when your body keeps producing that over and over, it basically creates an early death for you.
Yeah. Slowly breaks the body down,
right?
Weakens the immune system, and it puts you in a compromised position.
Right. And I think as men and women, mm-hmm. simply because we are, because of our Blackness in this country, we do find ourselves a lot of times working with this fight or flight syndrome kind mm-hmm. of deal. Whether it's like, I got to get these bills paid, how am I going to figure it out? Or I got to deal with these people.
Or microaggressions at work, or so there's always some sort of stress in our environment.
Right. And so for both men and women and others, it is important to address that physical aspect. So I think a lot of times people think about working out, mm-hmm. getting fit, but I think it's really important to talk about the insides. We need to mm-hmm. have our insides in prime condition. Mm-hmm. So, because if we don't, how will we? We got to
do this from the inside out, right?
Uh-huh.
If we create the right conditions internally, then we'll have the right conditions externally, right? So, it's the back end to the front end, right? We might look good on the front, but if we have a hidden cancer underneath, we're no good.
Right. We jumped into physical first, but I almost feel like physical addresses all those other things too. Because if you can keep your physical in top condition, then it's easier for you to address your mental as well. So, and I'll give this example. So several years ago, I started addressing my outer physical by not only lifting weights, mm-hmm. but I got into dance classes and all that kind of stuff. And as I found myself getting stronger and building muscle, mm-hmm. I was walking around more confident. That greater amount of confidence also created more mental stability for me, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. Yes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So now when a problem was thrown my way, I could think more clearly mm-hmm. versus, I guess, just before. And I never even thought about that until this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Now, like, I'm big on philosophy, right? And so, like, I've always thought about it as the thought comes first, right? It becomes a thought, and comes from the spirit, and then it manifests in the physical. But when you put it that way, yeah, I mean, it's circular, right? If you do it, you got to start somewhere. And if you start with the physical, it will feed into the spiritual or the emotional, right? And if you do it from the spiritual or the emotional or the mental first, it'll feed into the others as well. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So we covered by proxy emotional, right?
Right.
And
You kind of started to dab into spiritual.
right, and I went into spiritual, right? So spiritual, of course. I want to directly talk about that because spiritual, one of the things about spirituality and being spiritual is ritual, right? Whether it be mundane or magnificent, right? There's a certain value, right, to a spiritual ritual, right? So ritualistic things such as brushing your teeth daily, creating good habits,
Saying your prayers.
saying your prayers every morning.
Right.
What else is there? Maybe lighting incense, meditating,
Reading your Bible.
reading your Bible, right? Or whatever scripture you choose. What else is there? I don't know. Scheduling things in your day to ritualize your entire day.
I need to get better at that.
Yeah, scheduling is
Yeah.
man, I get so much more done when I schedule. And I
Definitely.
I haven't been scheduling lately, and it's unbelievable how much stuff I've gotten done without scheduling. So I'm sure if I schedule better, I'll be more productive.
Yeah.
So ritual, getting in a spiritual space, finding that spiritual thing, lighting your incense, meditating, speaking with whomever is the entity you imagine to be head of your life, and sticking to that. And then there's social and environmental. Now this is really key. Everybody talks about like
The 5 closest people to you.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, right. You are those people, right? You're a amalgamation of the people who you
That's a good
associate with, right? So, can you think of the 5 people you associate with most? You don't have to say their names. You just think about them. Who do I socialize with more? Okay, so most of the people I socialize with more or interact with more are business associates as well as friends. Right?
Okay.
So there's you, right? My homeboy Raymond,
Okay.
right? His father. Who else is there that I associate with? Unique,
Okay.
right? The Body Geek. And let me see, who's the 5th? Who would be the 5th person? As an adult, I'd say Lillian.
Okay.
Right? So those are the 5 people I communicate with most. There is not a day that goes by that I don't talk to all 5 of those people. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so Mr. Carter is a very religious man. Right? So he just that energy, when I see him, there's always a nice, strict, stern approach to life, right? So
He's very serious.
yes, he's very serious.
In such a good way, though. It's a warm seriousness.
It's not overbearing. It's just like I don't. It's warm. It's
I
warm,
love
very
it.
warm.
Yeah.
He's a warm, serious person, but he's always direct, to the point. And it's almost to a fault because his children don't take him as seriously as they should, but they're his children, right? They're so used to it. It's like, whatever, Dad, right? So that's that. Unique is a very spirit-driven person. She's open. She's honest. She's not from Chicago or this area, right? So she has a southern, slow and relaxedness about herself. And she just like is always doing what she needs to do. And as a person of the people around me, she's grown the most in this last year.
Yeah.
Right? She's like grown tremendously in a year. Who else is there? There's Raymond. Raymond, what I admire about him is when he decides to do something and he actually like starts to do it, it grows quickly. One of the things he did recently is he took on, what do we call it? Graphic design, and he started designing t-shirts and logos, and right every day, maybe every other day, he drops out like 3 different fresh designs that will all drawn by hand and digitized. And now he's got these crazy t-shirt ideas that are amazing. So that's another. And I like that drive. I like that, right? And then, well, there's you, right? Mm-hmm. You're an amazing entrepreneur. There are so many things that you do that I admire. Let's see. Here's a few. Your ability to work social media. As far as I can tell, right, from what I see you do, there's direct results that correspond to your actions every time you make an action. So every time you make a move with regards to working with me for my business, I see a direct result within hours, right?
Minutes,
and it's amazing. It's amazing, right? We could be sitting on the phone talking, and be like, oh, I talked to this person, and I'm like, oh shit, it's sale, right? it's amazing. So that, and then who's the fifth? Who's the last person? Lillian. Now, Lillian is very, what's the word? She's very stubborn, and it's important to be stubborn when you're trying to get something done. She will not let up. If there's a discussion that's had and there's something that I said I was going to do, you're not going nowhere until it get done. And I can appreciate that because, I do it too. Mm-hmm. I'm really, depending on what it is, once I get emotionally tied to something, I just don't let go, even when it's not worth dealing with. But I learned those lessons from her. There's, a few things in the past that she had her opinion about, she spoke, and I moved, and I wouldn't be where I am had I not listened to that moment. Mm-hmm. So those are the 5 people that directly, socially, impact my environment daily.
It's interesting talking about this because remember we had discussed this previously, like there's this wheel of wellness or this wheel of life, mm-hmm. right? And you have all these areas, and they all correspond to the areas of wellness as well. And the idea is you kind of break them down in this pie chart and you fill it up to try to figure out where you're lacking mm-hmm. or where you're doing well, to decide what points in your life you're going to work on first.
What do you
right?
prioritize, right?
And when I first learned about this years and years ago, I realized my social environmental was the one that needed the most work because there wasn't that, and even though I might have built it up over time, as you're saying, I'm sitting here like, man, do I even have 5 people,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, there are more, but those are my top 5. Yes.
There's more people, but when I'm thinking the 5 closest who impact, because I focus. So for me, I think I focus a lot on my spiritual, right? Mm-hmm. I focus on my physical and the mental and emotional, and I've been doing so much work with that I think I've even cut people out, and that's kind of what I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
But that's a part of that social and environmental wellness of cutting.
Yes.
Once you begin to realize who in your circle is not benefiting you or mm-hmm. even driving you down, mm-hmm. Then you start to cut. And personally, I've gone through a very recent gotta cut this, gotta cut that, because so for me immediately, of course, it was you. Mm-hmm. There is my mentor friend, Shayna, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Who is, I feel like she has all of those areas, but she's very heavy in spirit, mm-hmm. And just being, what is the word? Intentional, mm-hmm. and helps me to be intentional mm-hmm. as well, right? My friend Jeremy mm-hmm. is definitely in my life now, who is more of a, he's got amazing big ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of relationship that I have with him is pushing me to see how can I execute even better things, because I'm more responsible for taking those ideas and making them grow, mm-hmm. right? Of course, I talk to Niles every day, right? Mm-hmm. And so with Niles, it's very interesting how driven and how focused he is. Mm-hmm. And no matter what is going on in his life, he's going to get done what he has to get done. And that's something that I need to learn how to do. Because if something's happening, I'm like, no, life is over right now. Right? So what did I name? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just 4. It's 4. But
there's no 5th. Maybe your dad or anyone?
No, I don't even talk to my dad every day.
Okay, there's 4. There you have. You need to work on it. You need a 5th person.
I need a 5th person.
Yeah,
but I didn't say what you do. What do you do?
What do I do?
And so with you give amazing emotional support. Like you're an amazing cheerleader, and like everybody needs a cheerleader in their lives. You gotta go get your own cheerleader, but but no, like you're really super positive, and I've even noticed more recently that every time I ask you how you're doing, you're like, I'm fantastic. And I'm like, I want to be fantastic all the time too. Like, all right, what do I got to do to make myself fantastic right now? So but I got to work on, I have a 5th slot open up, taking applications currently.
Good. The applications are important now.
Man, yeah, and that's important when we're talking about social and environmental. A lot of people, for instance, will keep family members in their life, right? Because they'll say like, that's my mom, or that's my dad, or that's my sister, but that person is really like an emotional vampire, or they're draining you, or something, right?
I mean, proximity, right?
Right.
It's proximity. It always goes better when you choose the people as opposed to them being somebody who's a default staple in your life.
Right.
And that's just how it goes, because usually when you choose them, it's a mutual thing as opposed to an obligation, right? With like a parent, like it's obligatory. Like they feel like, I had you, so I have to do this thing for you, or I have to interact with you simply because I'm a parent. At some point, parenting has to become an appreciation for it to be effective, right? So if you appreciate parenting, then it's easier to do it. And then it makes more sense and it's more productive because the two of you feel like this kindred appreciation for the relationship, and you both carry it on, as opposed to, someone who feels like it's an obligation. The same thing with friendships. When you feel, and I say this mostly with romantic relationships, once it feels like an obligation, it starts to go downhill for someone. Like it just goes downhill. People check out. They do a lot less. It's not as fun. And then, not that relationships should always be fun, but they should be as fun and intriguing and as fun as possible. They should be great, right? Most of the time, like at least 85% of the time. If you're spending more than 85%, less than 85% of the time, it needs some adjustment.
Yeah.
But those are our 4 key places, and those are our 4 key wellness places. Do you have any? What are yours? Anything different? Did we miss anything?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in right here, because there's definitely things like financial wellness, right? Or even I've seen some people say creative wellness, and like I think those things are creative wellness. I think those things are important, but I think the ones that we touched on today, and this is my opinion, they kind of have like a heavier, what's the word?
Weight? They're weighted.
They're more weighted.
They have more impact or influence on your life.
Right. Especially your mental and your physical, because your physical can literally kill you, and then that's it. And your mental can literally kill you, and those two have like huge impacts. So, but what do you all think? We plan to be back and address those different areas, but we'd love to hear from you what you think is most important, how you're addressing those areas, or maybe even as we went through, kind of like me, maybe you acknowledged, man, this particular area I do need to address some more. So we'd love to hear from you.
So this is Rhea.
This is King, and this has been Wellness Wednesday for IamBeautiful365.com. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Peace.